twilight, these sisters discuss the paranormal and the unnerving. They are known as the ParaSisters.
Hey guys, this is Tristan.
And Rebecca.
And you are watching and listening to the ParaSisters.
The ParaSisters, what's up?
Nothing much. It's been a long week, man. Everybody got their stimulus checks, and it has been crazy.
People gambling and drinking, and they're like, oh shit.
Are you having a mimosa?
Yeah.
Oh, you bitch. I have to work.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, shut up. Yeah, it's just been crazy as fucking work, man. It's been insane. I am tired. I am wore out.
Are you making lots of tips though? That's like the most important thing.
Well, here's the problem with that is sometimes you get too busy that you don't make good money.
Oh.
And last week it was like that. Last night I had a really decent night. But yeah, sometimes it gets just too busy and you're the only person there. You're doing everything, you know. So you miss out on some stuff because somebody didn't get their drink as fast as they would like to get their drink, which part of my problem is I spoil people there. Like most of my regular customers, when they pull up, I know their car, I have their drink ready, I have their ashtray ready. If they're buying smokes, I already got them ready to go. You know, and I spoil them, so part of it's my fault.
It's sad that if I ever went in there, you couldn't even wait on me, huh?
I could not. I actually could not. You could not even be in there.
Oh, if you're in there?
Yeah, you could like come in and say like hi and bye and drop off something, but like we couldn't stand there and talk.
That's effed up. That's weird.
You seriously have like a 2-minute window.
That is so strange. I've never ever.
Well, because they don't want you to give like differential treatment to somebody else, and if you're related, they think that they're going to. And another thing too is if, say, we're related and you hit something on my shift, and people know that we're related, they will have like a big fit about it. So it kind of like cuts down on the conflict of interest type thing.
They must be liberals.
Yeah,
I'll probably cut that out because I don't want to alienate any listeners. I don't care if you're a liberal as long as you love the paranormal.
Yep, I don't either. Gotta love the paranormal though. Exactly. That's our only requisition here. Requisition. Yes.
Requirement.
That's the wrong one. Requirement. Thank you.
Although we could use some requisitions of cash.
We could use some. Yes. And equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, enough about that. If you guys like our stuff, please like, share, and subscribe to us. Hit the notification bell so you always get our content. And you can find us anywhere that you find podcasts.
That's right. We're out there.
We are out there. And check out our new website. Because it is badass.
It's so awesome.
I update that thing every time a new video comes out. And every time I look at it, I'm like, this thing is awesome.
It's so awesome. I keep going and looking at it too. I'm like, I love this thing.
Do you?
Yeah. Which a new video is coming out today, but when people listen to this, it won't be that day, obviously. So.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
I try to get them out on Fridays, but it seems like they're always coming out on Sundays now. So I don't.
Right. Well, now we've been recording on Sundays too, which is weird.
It is weird.
Right. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But it works for you. It works for me. So.
Yeah, whatever. We just try to mesh because Tristan works on days that I don't necessarily work on, so we try to make it work.
I pretty much work the weekend, and like
right now I work in the week.
So. Yeah, and it's hard for us to get together because she's got dinner and I've got dinner and everybody's got shit going on and she's got work and so.
True story. But
then I've got work.
But we're here.
Yes, we're here today, and we are going to talk about Port Arthur Part 2.
I labeled it Part 2. I feel like Andrea or Nessie actually labeled it, but
no, that's fine because it's Part 2 on the paper. But I was getting ready, and I was like, I'm going to say Part 2.
I love the word "do."
Rebecca likes it.
I don't even know why. Do. It's one of the few French words I
So,
can say correctly.
yeah, I can say toi.
Toi. You know, I
Toi.
can say like words. I've actually tried to teach myself French, which it's not that difficult if you use the right software, but I do know some French things.
There is an awesome app. I think I've told you about it before. And for all your listeners out there, we are not like we don't get anything, we don't get any kickback from this, but Duolingo is free.
Oh,
And you
that's
can
a Google thing, I'm assuming.
yeah, you can learn so many languages through Duolingo
Okay,
for
because
free.
I've looked up like Babbel, and of course you have to pay for Babbel. But I actually checked out. It's called the Pimsleur system or something like that, and I got it from the library. And then I won't say because I think it's illegal, but I got it from the library, and I actually like it quite a bit. But I stopped for some reason. But I can say some phrases in French.
I started to learn German and I actually did it for quite a while.
Dude, I want to learn German
And
so much. I should. I have.
it's fun.
I have a neighbor, and she's from Germany, and she's like the sweetest lady ever. And I should have her teach me German.
Yes. So now we're moving away from our languages to a place where they speak English in Australia.
It's funny English, but it's English nonetheless.
It's their English.
It's Australian English.
Everybody has their own English.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we last left off, Port Arthur was closed as a penal colony and prison, and was sold off in parcels. And they eventually turned parts of it into a historical preservation site, or sites, I should say.
Right.
So far, Port Arthur is part historical site and part residential. So we actually have residents living on it.
That's kind of crazy.
And it becomes very popular as a tourist destination. So that's kind of where we left off. This is quite, like over 100 years after the penal colony closes, which was in 1877. On April 28th and 29th of 1996, an event takes place that will change Australia forever, actually.
The whole state? Or the whole country? The whole state.
The whole country, yes.
The whole state.
It is called the Port Arthur Massacre. Yeah.
Dude, I love a good massacre. Not in that way. I don't,
No, I know what you mean, though. So on April 28th and 29th of 1996, a man committed a mass shooting in which 35 people were killed and 28 were wounded.
It's weird. I've never heard of this.
I had neither. And that's why I left off where I did our last show, because this is like a whole other thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's already a horrible, horrible place with the penal colony and the prisons and the work camps, and it's already a horrible place, and then it becomes even more horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The murderer, Martin Bryant. The murderer was Martin Bryant. Martin Bryant was born on May 7th, 1967, at the Queen Alexandra Hospital in Hobart, which is the capital of Port Arthur.
Right.
Tasmania, Australia. He was the first son of Maurice and Carleen Bryant. Although the family home was located at 65 Augustus Road in Lena Valley, Tasmania, Bryant spent quite a bit of his childhood at their beach home in Carnarvon Bay, which we had talked about before, which is in Port Arthur. In a 2011 interview, his mother recalled that while Martin was very young, she would often find his toys broken, and he was an annoying and different child.
What a thing to say about your kid.
Right.
Maybe
well,
no
a psychologist
did that.
Right. Well, a psychologist's view was that Bryant would never hold down a job, and he would aggravate people to such an extent that he would always be in trouble. Like that was just his personality. Like, he was just aggravating. Locals who knew him recalled abnormal behavior such as pulling the snorkel from another boy while diving and cutting down trees on neighbors' properties. You just go
Yeah.
to cut down people's trees. Um, he was described by teachers as being distant from reality and unemotional. At school, Bryant was disruptive and sometimes violent, and sometimes
Thank you.
a violent child who suffered severe bullying by other children, which we know how severe bullying can affect people later on in life, especially if they have some kind of mental disability or something.
I hate bullies.
I do too. That makes me sick. Uh, After he was suspended from Newtown Primary School in 1977, psychological assessments noted his torturing of animals. So he used to torture animals also.
That's a serial
Um,
killer in the making. For reals.
the following year, Martin returns to school with improved behavior. However, he persisted in teasing the younger children, so now he's become the bully.
Of
Um,
course.
and because of this, he was transferred to a special education unit at Newtown High School in 1980, where he deteriorated both academically and behaviorally throughout his remaining school years. So he becomes
Mm,
just an asshole.
yeah.
Descriptions of Bryant's behavior as an adolescent show that he continued to be disturbed and outline the possibility of an intellectual disability. So he he was intellectually uh what I can't even think of the word I want to use, but I have it in my head.
I hate that.
Um When leaving, he left school in 1983. He was assessed for a disability pension by a psychiatrist who wrote, "He cannot read or write, does a bit of gardening and watches TV. Only his parents' efforts prevent further deterioration. He could be schizophrenic, and parents face the bleak future, and his parents face a bleak future with him."
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
this is a doctor saying this. So he received his disability pension, though he also worked as a handyman and gardener
Mm-hmm.
with his own little business. Uh, this is like going after this happens. While awaiting trial, Bryant was examined by a court-appointed psychiatrist. Oh, another doctor had seen him. Oh, this is after the massacre. Sorry, I put it weirdly. Like I put it together weirdly.
Yeah.
In an examination after massacre, forensic psychiatrist Ian Joblin found Martin to be borderline mentally disabled with an IQ of 66, which is the
Holy.
equivalent of an 11-year-old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, while awaiting trial, Bryant was examined by a court-appointed psychiatrist, Ian Sale, who was of the opinion that Bryant could be regarded as having shown a mixture of conduct disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity, and a condition known as Asperger's syndrome. So he was diagnosed with Asperger's. But another doctor went on and said that is not schizophrenic. Um, this doctor is called Mullen. He says, though, Bryant was clearly a distressed and disturbed young man. He is not mentally ill.
Mm,
Because they were trying to say that he was mentally ill. That's why
of course, yeah.
even though he does have Asperger's, but it doesn't classify as mentally ill.
Right.
Um, so we're gonna go back before the shooting. In early 1987, when Bryant was 19, he met a woman. He met a woman, 54-year-old Helen Mary Elizabeth Harvey.
How old was he?
19.
And he
There was
met a
they
50.
there yeah, 54-year-old woman. He is actually her handyman.
Okay.
Um, and she was an heiress to a share in the Tattersall's lottery fortune. So she was a lottery winner. Um, at this point though, Harvey, we'll call her Helen. Helen is living with her mother, Hilza. She befriends Bryant who became a regular visitor to her neglected mansion at 30 Clare Street, Newtown, and assisted with tasks such as feeding her 14 dogs
Holy shit.
that were living inside the house and the 40 cats living inside her garage.
Oh God, what is wrong with people?
I don't know. She's 54, not married. She's a crazy cat lady.
Yeah, obviously, it's nuts.
In 1990, somebody reported Helen to the health authorities, and medics found both Helen and her mother in need of urgent hospital treatment. I'm assuming that has to do with the animals, you know?
Yeah.
Her mother died several weeks later at the age of 79. Sorry, my nose itches. Our wind has been blowing here, and it is driving my allergies crazy. So after all this, they call the police. The police come. They look in the house. The mother dies. They're ordered to clean up the mansion, and Martin's father took a long service leave to assist in cleaning the interior. Helen, at this point, invites Martin to come and live with her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And they start spending all her money, like
nice.
large amounts of money. Yeah. And they purchased more than 30 cars in less than 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the couple, they say the couple, but they're actually friends. They're just only friends.
Oh, they're not like a couple.
No, they're not like together. Yeah. The couple began to spend most days shopping, usually after having lunch at a local restaurant. So they just spend their days frivolously shopping, buying cars, buying clothes.
Insane.
Yeah. And so around this time, though, Martin has to have another assessment done. And his assessment says that his father protects him from any occasion which might upset him, as he continually threatens violence. So at this point, Martin is extremely violent. Sorry, guys. Mochi decided she needs attention right this minute.
Mochi.
So, and Martin told the doctor that he would like to go around shooting people.
What
it would be
fuck?
to allow Martin out of his parents' control. So this is a doctor who has stated this. But he still continues to live with Helen. In 1991, as a result of no longer being allowed to have the animals at the house, Helen and Martin moved together into a 72-acre farm called Torresville that she purchased on Arthur Highway, which is connected to Port Arthur from this, what did I say, New Haven? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I think it was New Haven.
Yeah, from this other town. Sorry, they live in a small township called Copping. It's just right off the Arthur Highway. Neighbors recalled that Brian always carried an air gun and often fired it at tourists as they stopped by to buy apples at a stand on the highway.
Nice.
And late at night would roam through the surrounding properties, like other people's properties, firing the gun at dogs when they barked at him.
That's
And
completely normal. I don't know.
Although the people in this township avoided him at all costs, despite his attempts to befriend them. Like, he wanted to be friends with them, but they're like, no, you're a weirdo.
But he's going around shooting at all their dogs. I'm like,
right. Well, in 1992, like a year later, Helen is killed in a car accident.
oh.
Yeah, her car veered to the wrong side of the road and hit an oncoming car directly. Now, Martin was known to, while they were driving, to pull the wheel.
Oh, was he in the car with her?
He was in the car with her too, yeah.
He killed her, huh?
They suspected it, but they could never prove it because he insisted that he had no wrongdoing, you know?
Well, yeah, how are you going to prove something like that? I'm like, you can't.
Yeah, but he had been known to do this, and she had had 3 previous accidents because of this.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and she was stated as saying that she never drove over 37 miles an hour because of this.
That's crazy.
Yes. So after Helen dies, Martin is named the sole beneficiary of
How?
Helen's,
What?
because that's her closest friend, and she put him in her will as the sole beneficiary of $570,000.
Oh, so that's not even that much at that. Well, I guess in the 90s it was, but
In the
I'm
90s, it was quite a bit of money.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming she had more than that, but they spent a bunch of it.
Well, they bought 30 cars in 3 months.
I don't know how
Um,
people do that.
but because Martin had no idea, like his mom is quoted as saying he only has the vaguest notions of financial matters.
Yeah. Well, he's 11
Uh,
in his mind, basically.
right. His mother subsequently applied for and was granted the guardianship order, placing Martin's assets under the management of public trustees.
That's good. At least he can spend it all.
Yes, and they did it because he there was evidence of his diminished intellectual capacity.
11, yeah.
Yeah, he was mentally 11. Um, now I don't know, because this gets pretty awful and he becomes pretty awful, and I understand that people with mental disabilities or some sort of diminished intellectual capacity are out there, but I don't think that you can really blame that on this. Or you can't really blame this on that
Well,
at
that,
all.
I mean, that would be like if an 11-year-old went crazy and killed a bunch of people. Is it because they're 11 or is it just because they're not a good person? Like they're something happened to them. Like,
I honestly like, because an 11-year-old doesn't do that. I have an almost 11-year-old. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And she's not going to go out and do stuff like that unless she was extremely evil. I think she was
Well, that's
like,
what
I
it,
think he was
because
evil.
I have heard, and there's actually a show, I think it's on Amazon, and it's called When Kids Kill, and it's literally when children kill people, like whether it be other children or their parents or whatever. Like it does happen, but I don't think it's because there's something wrong with them mentally. I think it's because they're, like you said, they're evil. They're evil people.
Right. They're sociopaths
Yeah, they just like
from like
they like
birth.
suffering of other people or things. Yeah.
Right. Um, so after Helen's death, Martin's father, Maurice, looked after the copping farm. So he took care of the farm after that. Martin was severely injured in this accident, and he like his back, he was actually in the hospital for 7 months with severe
Was
neck
he?
and back injuries. Yeah. So his dad starts looking after the farm while Martin is in the hospital. When Martin he when Martin's released, he returns to the family home to recuperate and convalesce. I like that word.
His parents sound like really good people.
I think they were really good people, and I think they just tried their best with him.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, it is
it's
their kid, so it's like,
right. And when you have an impossible child, especially when that impossible child is over the age of 21,
yeah.
what are you supposed to do then? Because at that point, you have no legal
Well, right.
standings really anymore.
They're an adult. There's nothing you can do.
Right. And it's awful. So, Maurice had been his father had been just prescribed antidepressants and had discreetly transferred his bank account and utilities into his wife's name, because at this point he had tried to buy a inn in Port Arthur, and these people like wanted the inn and they wanted all the property around it and they wanted all this other property that his father was interested in, and they kind of like stepped on toes to get it because they were extremely wealthy, and they
Yeah.
kind of bought their way into it, which I understand. Selling a property, if you're outbid, you're outbid, but these people were kind of underhanded about it
Right.
when they bought the property. So he becomes extremely, extremely, extremely depressed. And 2 months after Martin comes home, On August 14th, 1993, a visitor looking for Maurice at the Copping property found a note saying, "Call the police," pinned to the door, and found several $1,000s in Maurice's car. The officer at the time found no reason to suspect criminal intent and sent council members and police to quell the stresses put forward by the letters sent to the local council members, which he had sent letters to the local council members stating his purposes, like what he's going to do. So the police search the property. They don't find Maurice. Divers were called out to the 4 dams on the property, and on August 16th, his body was found in the dam closest to the farmhouse
Oh.
with a diving weight belt around his neck. Police described the death as unnatural, and it was ruled a suicide. And of course, Martin inherited the proceeds of his father's superannuation fund, which I'm assuming is like a pension.
Right, something
Yeah, it's like a
Australian.
pension. Yeah, valued at $250,000. So now he's got like $750,000.
Right.
So after this event, Martin sells the Copping farm for $143,000, but he keeps it's Newtown. Sorry, not New Haven.
That's Connecticut. I thought it
Yeah.
sounded
Me too.
familiar.
That's why I said New Haven. $143,000, but he keeps the Newtown mansion, the one that him and Helen first lived in.
Right.
I know I'm going into him a whole lot, but you kind of have to understand him as a person and what
Yeah.
he's been through to understand what he does, which it's hard to even understand what he does, but it kind of builds it up.
Yeah.
So while he lived at the farm in Copping, he wore white overalls habitually, all the time. Like that's what he wore. Then he finally replaces it with clothing more in line with Helen's financial status. So he starts dressing extremely nice. But now that he is alone, Martin's dress becomes pretty bizarre. He often wore a gray linen suit. I'm never sure how to say this word. A cravat.
Oh, caravat. Oh my gosh, it's a tie. It's a fancy tie.
And wears a fancy tie, one of those ones that are all puffed up right here. Lizard skin shoes and a Panama hat while carrying a briefcase during the day, telling anyone who would listen that he had a well-paying career. So he's pretending to be a businessman now.
I don't know why. I mean, like, he's rich. He doesn't have to pretend to be anything.
Right. He often wore an electric blue suit with flared trousers and a ruffled shirt to a restaurant he frequented. The restaurant owner recalled it was horrible. Everyone was laughing at him, even the customers. I really felt suddenly quite sorry for him. I realized this guy didn't really have any friends at all.
Oh, that is kind of sad.
Yeah. So now in 1993, Helen and now his father, who he's extremely close with, so they're both pretty much his best friends, have now died.
Oh.
And Martin becomes increasingly lonely. From 1993 to 1995, he visits various overseas countries, like 14 times. He goes to like 14 different countries. And the summary of his domestic airline travel filled 3 pages.
Holy. Dude,
Yeah, so he travels quite a bit.
I hate feeling bad for people that do terrible things. Like, I hate it so much.
Right. Well, like you can feel bad for the person he was.
Yeah.
But not the person he becomes, you know. Martin hated the destinations he traveled to. He hated them all.
Why would he go there?
Well, he wanted to go and see it, but he found that people there avoided him just as they did in Tasmania.
Oh,
Because he's just a weird dude. He's messed up in his head and he's weird. And people try to avoid that kind of weirdness, you know.
I probably would be his friend.
The things that he liked, I I don't know. I don't know. The thing he liked best about his travels was the flights. He liked the flights because he could speak to people sitting adjacent to him who had no choice but to be polite to him.
Because you're on a plane. What are you gonna do? Oh, those poor people.
Yeah, and later when he would tell people of his travels, he took great joy in describing some of the more successful conversations he had with fellow passengers. Like, he didn't talk about the countries or anything like that. He talked about his flights. That's what he talked about. Yeah. In late 1995, Martin became suicidal after deciding he had had enough. That's what he stated. He had had enough. He says, I just felt more people were against me. When I tried to be friendly toward them, they just walked away. Also, the deal with these other people,
Right.
who we're going to find out who they are in a minute, it is really weighing heavily on his mind because he feels like his father was cheated out and that's why his father killed himself. So now he's blaming these people because
Yeah.
of his father's suicide.
Right. Oh.
At this point, he says, I just felt more people were against me. When I tried to be friendly toward them, they just walked away. So at this point, where he had always been a social drinker, he becomes more of an alcoholic. And he especially escalated in his drinking in the 6 months prior to the Port Arthur massacre, although he had not drank that day that it happened. He was not drinking that day. His average daily consumption was estimated at a half a bottle of Sambuca, which is extremely sweet,
Yeah.
an entire bottle of Bailey's Irish cream,
Oh, nice.
and supplemented with port wine and other sweet alcoholic drinks. So every day he's consuming massive amounts of alcohol. This poor guy. I feel bad for him at first.
I feel very bad for him right now. Like,
I know. According to Martin, he thought he thought of the plan for the Port Arthur massacre. He believes that Martin says that the plan for the Port Arthur massacre occurred to him 12 weeks before the event. So this was something that he had planned out for 3 months before it even happened.
yeah.
Sorry, I got to collect my thoughts here. Because this is when he stopped feeling bad for him. So Martin provided conflicting and confusing accounts of what led him to kill 35 people at the Port Arthur site on April 28th, 1996. So he is like saying different reasons.
Right.
It could have been his desire for attention, as he allegedly told the next door neighbor, I'll do something that will make everyone remember me.
Nice.
Martin's defense psychiatrist, Paul Mullen, former chief of forensic psychiatry at Monash University, said he followed Dunblane, which Dunblane is an author who wrote books about mass killings.
Right. Okay.
And they were actually fiction books, but he wrote books about that. But he had read these books by Dunblane, and he started planning with reading these books. But he read these books, and because this guy, because he was thinking about killing himself first,
Right.
and he was just like, committing suicide. But he read these books, and he's like, no, I'm going to do something great before that happens. So in his mind, this is something great, something that people will remember him by, and they do.
Yeah.
So reading that book changed everything for him. So he starts his massacre early in the morning, and he drives to the bed and breakfast called Seascape. And this is what his dad had tried to purchase. His first victims were David and Nolene, what they called her Sally. David and Nolene, David and Nolene Martin, they own the bed and breakfast. The Martins had bought the bed and breakfast that his father had wanted to buy, and his father had complained to him on numerous occasions of the damage done to the Bryant's family because of that purchase. Um, Martin apparently believed that the Martins had deliberately bought the property to hurt his family and blamed the Martins for the depression that led to his father's death. He fatally shot the Martins in the guest house before traveling to the Port Arthur site of where he mass kills people. At Port Arthur, Bryant entered the Broad Arrow Cafe on the grounds of the Port Arthur site, the Port Arthur historical site, carrying a large blue duffel bag. He orders food. He orders a soda. Yes, he sits down and he eats.
Oh, okay.
Once he's finished eating, Martin moves toward the back of the cafe and sets a video camera on a vacant table. He then takes out a Colt AR-15 SP1 carbine semi-automatic rifle and, firing from the hip, begins to shoot patrons and staff. For no reason. Just starts shooting people. Within 15 seconds, he had fired 17 shots, killing 12 people and wounding 10.
Oh my gosh.
Martin then walks to the other side of the shop and fires 12 more times, killing another 8 people and wounding 2 more. He then changed magazines before fleeing, shooting at people in the car park from his yellow Volvo as he drove away. 4 were killed in the parking lot and 6 more were injured.
That's terrible.
So, yes, it's awful. I mean, it takes somebody. I mean, he eats, so he's not even nervous. This is completely.
Yeah.
He's a complete sociopath. So Martin drives 300 meters down the road to where a woman and her 2 children were walking. He stops and fires 2 shots, killing the woman and the child she was carrying. Now, this is awful. Trigger warning. The older child flees, but Martin follows her and kills her. Like, he chases after her and kills her with a single shot. He then goes back to the road, stops a person driving a gold BMW, and kills all 4 occupants of that car and steals their car. A short distance down the road, he stops beside a couple in a white Toyota and, drawing his weapon, ordered the male occupant into the trunk of the BMW. After shutting the trunk, he fires 2 shots into the windscreen of the Toyota and kills the female driver. And now he has a male person in the trunk of his car. So what he decides he's going to do now is he returns to the guest house at Seascape, parks the car, sets the stolen car on fire, and takes his hostage inside where he left the Martins' corpses. So now it's him, the hostage, and the Martins who are dead in this place. The police soon arrive and try to negotiate for Martin for many hours before the battery in the phone that he was using dies, ending communications completely. Martin's only demand was to be transported in an army helicopter to an airport. During the negotiations, Martin kills his hostage. The next morning, 18 hours later, they don't know that he killed the hostage. 18 hours later, he sets fire to the guest house while he's still in it and attempts to escape in the confusion. Suffering burns to his back and his butt. Bryant was captured and taken to Royal Hobart Hospital, where he was treated and kept under heavy guard. And that ended his reign of terror. This one person. Isn't that awful?
That's so terrible.
This guy is awful. Although this is a good thing, Bryant was judged fit to stand trial. They did not say that he was mentally insane.
That's good.
He initially pleaded not guilty, but was persuaded by his court-appointed lawyer, John Avery, that the prosecution to plead guilty to all charges. 2 weeks later, his trial began on November 7th, 1996. 2 weeks later, Hobart Supreme Court Judge William Cox gave Martin 35 life sentences plus 1,652 years in prison without the possibility of parole, all of which to be served concurrently. This life sentence being applied is for the term of his natural life. He will be in prison.
That's awesome.
Yes. For the first 8 months of imprisonment, he was held in a special suicide prevention cell in almost complete solitary confinement. He remained in protective custody for his own safety until November 13, 2006, when he was moved into Hobart's Wilfred Lopes Center, a secure mental health unit run by the Tasmanian Department of Health and Human Services. The 35-bed unit is for inmates with serious mental illness, is staffed with doctors, nurses, and other support workers. Inmates are not locked down and can come and go from their cells, though.
Okay.
But he cannot leave the facility.
Right.
Exterior security at the facility is provided by 3-wall perimeter patrolled by private contract guards. He tried to kill himself a couple times. Once on March 25th, 2007, and then again on March 27th, 2007, but he does not succeed. As of 2020, Brian is housed in a maximum security Ritson prison near Hobart. He is still alive and he is still in prison.
That's awesome.
I think that's awesome also. You don't get to do that after you kill 35 people. What the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, so awful.
Yeah, so I know that part was awful, but I wanted to do that part so that you could realize, so that our listeners could get a sense of what could be going on as far as the paranormal on this island. So you have 100 years of it as a prison.
Right.
A very awful, soul-crushing place to be.
Right.
And then you have this madman who 100 years later, pretty much, comes and 120 years later comes and destroys so many people's lives.
And Andrew scared me.
Nessie. Damn it, Nessie. So I wanted to because this island has had so much heartbreak and so much torment and so much turmoil that there's no way it couldn't be haunted.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the ghosties and the ghouls.
Yes.
So this is a quote that I found in an article, and I just thought it was extremely creepy, and I like it.
Yeah.
So the quote is, "It's just after 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. The silence is punctured by the crisp click of a door latch. The simple sound is sensory nourishment for the visitor who is adjusting to the otherwise dark deprivation of the separate prison." Now, this is where they lived. The prisoners lived in the penal colony, where they were not allowed to talk. There was no sounds, nothing. A place that sits and broods, generating fear without thought. The visitor shuffles softly, uneasily down the central corridor, the thick closed doors on either side illuminated by lantern light. With each step, they become more immersed in the cloying drift of shadows that seem to have lingered in the prison since 1850. They walk toward their apprehension. High wooden ceilings play acoustic tricks, filling the cold air with secret rustlings that come from everywhere. They pause in front of a door inscribed with the following solitary suicide. The visitor enters, perhaps dragged in by the tendril of pity that still clings to the walls of the cell. Inside, a whisper of 27-year-old William Carter remains, a farm laborer from Essex. His ghostly presence swings for eternity from the leather straps of his hammock, tied around his neck. Sleep comes of a sort. It is easy to picture his bent neck poised
Oh
awkwardly,
my god.
giving him the appearance of morbid curiosity. The visitor, gripped by sadness, speculates. He wore his hood his captors gave him, even though there was no one there to see. And in dying, he barely made a sound. Perhaps William heard the sudden monstrous surge of thick blood as it screamed through his skull before slowing and stopping altogether. And as sleep descended, did his decaying neurons fire off one last homesick flashback to an
Oh,
old English oak anchoring his despair? The visitor draws level with the dead man's cheek as they read about the end of William. They shiver at the partial but precise point of contact. His punishment is infinite.
I feel like I'm gonna cry. That was so sad.
Isn't it? It's so and it's creepy and it's
It's
sad because
so creepy.
this
Oh
is a
my
person who's
gosh.
visited the prison in like nowadays,
Yeah.
but it's like back, like it's of an event taking place back then. William
Yeah.
Carter did kill himself in his cell.
Ugh.
Yes. I know. Hold on, I gotta take a break after that one.
Dude, I feel like I literally have like tears. I feel for that guy dragged from his home, taken to Australia.
I know, isn't it awful? Like, especially an event that actually happened in the prison. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it was soul crushing there. So, the sightings of ghosts among the ruins at Port Arthur. I'm gonna learn how to talk one day. Began to occur in the 1870s. So before the
Oh.
prison was even closed, they had already started seeing having sightings of ghosts and apparitions. Shortly after it ceased to function as a secondary punishment station, um, shortly after they stopped like sending prisoners there, then they started seeing the ghosts. Um, Designed to administer and discipline convicted felons transported to Van Diemen's Island, which we had talked about.
Hmm.
Um, Port Arthur is well-known site of dark heritage that has also earned the reputation of being one of Australia's most haunted landscapes. Um, associated as it is with pain, as it is with pain, crime, and deprivation, it should come as no surprise that the site has produced a wealth of stories about apparitions that remain unexplained. Such anecdotes tend to revolve around the lives of ghosts and of the men, women, and children who once lived here and reference strange feelings, swinging lights, soft touches,
Oh.
um, unnerving sounds, and smells that vividly evoke the presence of the past. Yeah. Um, Within this mix, there are a handful of frequently cited encounters that conjure particular presences, such as the Lady in Grey,
Mm.
who we will talk about, who died during childbirth, a young boy awaiting execution, a
What?
small girl. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they executed children there. Remember they had a boys' prison?
Yeah. What kind?
Yeah, a
Of,
small girl with her pale face pressed up against the window of the medical officer's residence, which we'll get into more detail about that. A soldier wearing red in the Tower Cottage. and a disembodied head that hovers in the dissection room underneath the visiting magistrate's house.
I'm sorry, the dissection room?
Yes, we're going to get into that also.
What?
Yeah, these are ghosts who have made themselves known on several occasions, providing Port Arthur's visitors with visceral links between the physical spaces in which they stand and the echoes of what is known to have happened there. The assemblages of death, somebody quoted. They act as reminders of Port Arthur's past. So we're gonna get into the places now. The parsonage is one of the primary locations for paranormal activity in Port Arthur. This is, of course, the parish's house. You know, where the preacher or the father, or
Right, right.
I don't know what they're called in Catholic.
Pastor.
No, that's Christian.
The preacher. What did I say? Preacher,
Preacher,
pastor.
preacher.
Is it the preacher? No, like the father. It'd be like a father.
Yeah, the father. Yeah, I don't know. The Catholic
We're
guy.
not
That
Catholic, so we don't.
we don't know. If you guys know exactly what it's called, please let us know because I am unsure.
The guy. The
Um,
guy.
the house was originally a prison, and some of the spirits said to still dwell there may be those of tormented convicts brought to Port Arthur. Those who work in and around the parsonage believe it is the most haunted building on the island. Um, According to witnesses, unexplainable lights flicker, doors shut mysteriously, and ghostly footsteps echo in the halls. The most famous spirit known to inhabit the parsonage is that of Reverend George Eastman, who served as parson on the island. I guess parson would be the correct term then.
Okay, sure.
Um, who served as parson at the island church during the 19th century. Soon after his death, rumors of his ghost began to surface. Visitors often smell a rotten odor in the house,
Ugh.
hear moaning and other strange noises, and witness lights flashing in the building while there's nobody in there.
What?
Yeah, that's just one building, Rebecca. Just one. One of the most chilling stories that most people tell about Port Arthur, and I found this in a few places, involves the ghosts of children seen and heard nearly everywhere. They see and hear children nearly everywhere. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
These ghostly children have been photographed in various windows, which is pretty damn cool because I looked at the photographs. Their laughter and their cries have been heard on the streets, and they have been heard running up and down various stairwells among the houses.
That's awesome.
Yes, but worst of all are the sounds of the painful cries coming from Point Pure, the prison built specifically for the boys.
Oh.
Yeah. At one point, it held 3,000 young prisoners, some as young as 9 years old.
What did these kids do? Kids should never be in jail.
They were like, sorry, golly. They were like pauper children who stole in England, and the crown decided that they were just going to send them to Australia because they could not be really rehabilitated or anything like that. You know, don't think about giving them a damn loaf of bread every day or anything like that. Let's just send them off to
Ugh.
a penal colony. That is awful.
Right. I don't think children should ever have been deported. That's terrible.
It is terrible, especially as young as 9 years old.
That's how old baby Nessie is. I'm like,
I know.
I could not imagine them deporting baby Nessie.
For stealing a loaf of bread 2 times. You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
Explorers who visit Point Pura at night find the halls filled with the sounds of dread. It is said that the
What does
cries
that
of
mean?
one boy specifically are clearly heard. He cries remorsefully as he's led to his own execution.
Why are they executing children? What is happening?
I don't know. This place was awful, Rebecca. I mean, it was awful then. It had a mass shooting, which was more awful. I honestly think that this place just might be evil.
I hope that whoever thought it was a good idea to execute children is burning in hell right now.
Right, they're children.
Because I don't care. I mean, there's very, very little I think a child could do to deserve death. And
I agree.
I don't think even killing another person would warrant a child's death. So
I don't think so either.
I just don't.
Maybe imprisonment. You know what I mean? Like if the child is deemed that he or she would not be able to live in society
Right.
if they were dangerous. You know what I mean? But to execute a child, I know.
Who could even do that? Like, what the
Who could even call that sentencing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, I think this whole place just has like an evil aura about it.
It sounds awful, and I kind
It
of
does sound
really
awful.
want to go here. So
Me too. I just want to see. I just want to see what it feels like, man. I'm telling you,
yeah,
like, I just want to see how it feels to even go to the island. And I'm telling you, I think I could tell if it was evil or not.
I think so too. Hmm.
So the church at Port Arthur has a haunted history as well. The building caught fire in 1884, and ever since then, visitors and residents have noticed strange activities, especially in the bell tower. The bell rings randomly, even though the ringer is noticeably absent. And this is a church bell, so you know that
Yeah,
that thing is
it's a
loud.
it's a big bell first of all, so it's hard to just ring.
Right.
It's not. The wind's not blowing and the bell is ringing. Like,
Right, but there's no ringer. Early in the 19th century, when the church was being constructed,
it's
constructed,
constructed.
it is said that two convict workers brawled over an argument, and one of the men struck the other with a pickaxe,
Oh
killing him.
shit!
Caretakers of the church and the tower say that at one point after the man's death, ivy began growing on the church wall everywhere except the exact spot where the man's blood soaked the ground.
What?
Yeah. Is that not
That's
creepy?
creep. That's so creepy.
That's terrible. Man, the bell gets me. I'm telling you, the bell gets me of this
Um.
thing because there's no ringer in it. And it's huge, so you know that everybody in town hears this bell ring randomly.
Um. Yeah, I want to hear that honestly.
I also want to hear this because that is creepy
That's
and I
super
like it.
creepy.
And the ivy thing is cool. In the prison's basement lies the senior surgeon's dissection room, where hundreds of former inmates were opened up and examined. They didn't have to be dead, just so you
What?
know. Yeah. In here, the cold stone walls exude the feeling that they are closing in on its visitors. Some have even said that they saw faces bleed through the walls and peer at them from the corner of their eyes, only to disappear moments later. An old sheep's skull lying on the stone slab is said to sometimes move on its own. And one tour guide often tells about the time that a grizzled World War II vet entered one of the adjoining rooms and fell unconscious from fear.
What?
Yeah. So yeah, senior surgeon would bring convicts down here, inmates, and experiment on them. They did not have to be dead.
What the fuck?
Yeah, isn't that awful?
That really freaks me out. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, so I couldn't even imagine how this room feels.
No, it must be terrible.
It must be. I'm gonna go here too.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky for us, all this stuff is in the same place.
Yes.
The lady in blue is a young woman, apparently a teenager, who appears around the accountant's house, which is still standing. It's a very old house it's one of the original houses in Port Arthur.
Right.
Um, and she's seen around the parsonage. Um, It is thought that the girl is one of the accountant's wives who died in childbirth.
Oh.
Um, this is a story. One young child began struggling in his mother's arms and said, "Mommy, put me down." The boy ran over to the veranda by the accountant's house and threw his arms up as if expecting to be picked up. When its parents asked him about it, he replied simply, "The nice lady who lives here wants to play."
No.
Yeah.
That's what I would be saying.
So,
I don't think so.
and I had read in other accounts too that this lady in blue attracts people, like attracts children. Not to harm them, that nobody ever comes to any harm, but it's only the children that see her.
Interesting.
Yeah. The first house ever built in Port Arthur was the commandant's house. So the guy who's in charge of all the prisons,
Right.
all of the convicts and the inmates and stuff. It was built for colony leader in 1833 and had an astonishing view of the entire village. So from this house, you can see the entire village. Today, one of the rocking chairs inside the house is believed to hold a long dead spirit. Those who sit in it are hit with the presence of an unnatural aura, and many who attempt to simply photograph it find their equipment mysteriously and temporarily defective.
What?
It also, I read in other accounts, it also rocks on its own.
Of course it does. What kind of rocking chair that's haunted wouldn't rock on its own?
Right. I know. I like it.
That's freaking awesome.
It is freaking awesome. When Port Arthur was established in 1830, administrators knew that there needed to be a place where they could keep their dead. So they looked over the water and saw a small island, at which at that time was named Possum Island.
Possum Island.
Yeah, and realized that it was the best place for a graveyard.
Oh, nice.
So from 1833 to 1877, any prisoner who died at Port Arthur were buried on the island, which was consequently named the Island of the Dead.
Wow.
In this small time frame, so 44 years, over 1,600 prisoners were laid to rest there, most of them whom did not receive a grave marker or tombstone. There is actually one that I've read about who did have a tombstone, because he was revered and honored, even though he was a prisoner. He was from England, and he had gone to Port Arthur because of fraud. He wrote fraudulent. Yeah, he was a fraudster, but he had actually wrote a beautiful novel while he was in prison, and he was the first person in Australia to ever write a novel.
What? That's crazy. I wonder what the novel is. I'll have to look it up.
I don't know if I put it in here or not, but I have it somewhere. I have it in my notes somewhere. Yeah. So it is said that those who never received a proper burial roam the island at night, bemoaning their eternal sleepless torment. So they have ghostly apparitions, they hear things, they hear voices, they see a lot of disembodied spirits, they see a lot of ghost mist, they see orbs. You can catch a lot of orbs on film.
Right.
But they have full-bodied apparitions. Everything that you can think of, they have on this island.
That's great. It's like a one-stop shop for paranormal.
Exactly. Which I like that.
Love that.
This whole island, this whole Port Arthur is a peninsula, is a one-stop shop for paranormal.
Yeah.
Like, you can have everything you want here. I mean, we have a lady in gray, we have a lady in blue, we have children, we have prisoners, we have
Phantom
evil
noises.
stuff, phantom noises. I mean, this place is great. Port Arthur is naturally separated into specific communities. The senior officer living quarters were built away from the main prisoner facility. This area is called the Civil Officers Row, and many ghosts occupy this neighborhood. In 1848, the junior medical officer's home was built as a means to tend to any wounded prisoners or officers. It is here that many report all manner of strange spiritual disturbances. Some have seen ghostly children running around playing, while others have seen a melancholy old woman searching for the spirit of her stillborn child.
Oh my gosh.
Um, Legend has it that she was buried separate from her dead baby because the child was never baptized, and
What?
and the child was buried under unconsecrated land, so it wasn't a consecrated grave.
Um. Okay.
Yeah, that's sad, huh?
That's not how I choose to believe that religion works. Usually, your family members are under an umbrella.
Right,
Like
I
if,
would think so.
well, I'm like it's a stillborn infant. I'm like,
Right, how can you baptize a stillborn baby? You know what I mean?
that's awful. That's terrible. I dislike that intensely.
I don't like that babies have to be baptized anyway. Um, just a little side note, we were part of a Baptist church, and myself and Sassy and the boy Sassy's were all baptized. But baby Sassy, she could not be baptized because she's not old enough to be
Right.
baptized. So
Well,
she was just dedicated.
I choose to believe that children are born without sin because they don't know what sin is. They're children.
Right.
I'm like, they have no idea what it is to sin. They don't know if they're sinning or not. They're children.
Right. Right. You have to wait till the age of accountability,
Right.
where they can become accountable for their actions.
Exactly.
I agree. I agree with you. So, the Port Arthur ghost tour leader, Jake Bradshaw, has gained a wealth of knowledge about the town's apparitions. Sometimes all he has to do is look at photographs that tourists have taken and he kind of knows what it is and where
Oh,
it is.
nice.
Yeah. He says, I get to see all the photos visitors sent back, and the scariest are two photos of the same area taken within 10 seconds of each other. There's a window of a house in the photos, and in the first photo, the curtains are closed, but in the second, the curtains are slightly parted with a little ghostly girl peering out. When you zoom in,
What?
you can see an eye, a nose, even a nostril and mouth. Very scary stuff,
I
he
just
says.
got the chills. I don't think that's
You
scary.
can
That's
you
weird.
can Google this. You can Google this photo, and it's pretty
I'll
damn
put
cool.
it up.
Yes, put it up.
We're 107 minutes in. I just want to mark that so I can make sure that I know where to put it.
Okay. In 1833, the Island of the Dead was created to house the corpses of the dead prisoners. Typically, one prisoner was uh, relegated to be the grave digger,
Oh, nice.
and they were housed on the island along with the bodies, only returning to the mainland every weekend, pretty much only for church services,
I'm sorry, they had to live on the island by
because they
themselves?
were the designated grave digger. Yep.
But they didn't have like a guard?
No. Well, where are you
That's,
gonna go?
I don't
It
know.
was shark infested waters.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's this little tiny island, and they're gonna see you if you try to leave. There's no boats because nobody's allowed to bring boats around the peninsula. And
right.
the only time you leave the island is on when they come and get you on Sundays to go to church.
That's completely effed up. I'd probably risk the sharks, to be honest with you.
Right. One of the most infamous gravediggers was a huge ex-con named Mark Jeffrey. He was a rough and tumble Irishman. Yeah. Who was serving time for manslaughter. One day, officers found that he had lit a signal fire on the island, and they went to investigate. They found the giant man curled up into a quivering ball of fear. He said that the previous night his hut shook violently and a red glow emanated from within. He said that he was visited by the devil himself,
What?
and his eyes glowed red with heat, and the stench of sulfur engulfed him in smoke.
Uh,
Yeah. So he was done grave digging because he believed that it was evil there. He believed that the devil himself had come to visit him.
It's weird because I very rarely believe that cemeteries have a lot of spiritual activity, mainly because that may be the final resting place, but that's not usually where things happen to people. And I think
Right.
people tend to stay where um, they've lived their lives, or either they've died or whatever. But now we're talking about something altogether, the devil. So it's like,
Right.
I don't,
So, like, and I agree with you about the cemeteries, but if you think about it, like, the only respite these people had was death.
yeah.
So they might follow their body.
Well, and then I also have to think of if a spirit maybe doesn't know that they're dead, and they attach themselves to family members, and of course family
They have
members,
no family. Yeah. So they
right,
attach themselves
whatever,
to their own body.
right, exactly, yeah. But I actually enjoy cemeteries. I find them extremely beautiful and peaceful. So
I do too. I think they're, and I don't love, like, there's nothing more that I love than an old cemetery with
hmm
old headstones that are hundreds of years old, and they have like
yes.
ivy and vines growing on them and flowers, and they're so beautiful.
Dude, there are so many mountain cemeteries I would take you to, Tristan.
Oh, I would love it. It would be so beautiful.
Yes.
I love the little cemetery in Shoshone right there by
Yeah.
the Manson caves. I
Yes.
love that little cemetery. I think it's so, and it's just real little, and it's out in the desert, and there's not anything growing on it or anything, but it's so old, and I think it's so cute, and it's, you know what I mean? It's just, it's a
hmm
wonderful, I don't know. We're weirdos, Becca. We like
Dude, I
cemeteries.
must be a freak. I love cemeteries. Like, I like to walk through cemeteries and I'll say the names out loud of the people's graves that I read.
You know what? You know what we need to do is we need to do gravestone etchings.
Oh, yes. That'd be awesome.
Yes, that would be so cool. I would love to do that. So we're gonna get to the story about the boy or the man. I'm sorry, it wasn't a boy, he was a man. In that little excerpt I read
Oh, right.
um at the beginning. On April 20th, 1867, one of the prisoners, William Carter, committed suicide in his own cell. He fashioned a makeshift noose with his own hammock and hung himself in due order. No one knew the reason why, but it might have had something to do with the prison's oppressive silent system.
I mean, I can't see where it'd be hard to figure out why, but okay.
Right, because prisoners were forced to remain silent at all times
Right.
and suffer brutal forms of corporal punishment. They were also forced to wear the hoods and were identified only by their numbers. This led many of them to actually go insane. People who visit Carter's cell uh, have said that they sense overwhelming feelings of oppression and depression while inside.
I don't like that, but I can appreciate it.
I would go there anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally would. I wouldn't like it, but
Yes. So we're gonna get in. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it either, but I want to just experience it because I could experience it. You know what
no,
I mean?
yeah, I would actually be disappointed if I didn't get those feelings when I went there.
Yes. So I think that once we get enough funds on our USA tour, we should also include Port Arthur, Tasmania.
I definitely want to go international. It's I mean, the United States is great. I mean, we got a lot of creepy stuff here, that's true. But
But it's just not that old.
for old history, I mean, there's nothing like going overseas. So, I feel
Like
like
England and Ireland and Scotland.
yes.
There's some good stories in Germany, things like
Yes.
that. I think it would be fantastic. So my last little story here is of Private Robert Young. Um, in 1840, he's 20 years old, and he was providing a nighttime escort for a doctor to see a young patient at Point Pure, which is the boys' prison. After the doctor disembarked from the boat, Young decided to keep guard in the boat, so in case there was prisoners who were trying to escape,
Right.
could not get in the boat. It turned out to be a terrible idea for this poor boy.
Oh shit.
Because he was a boy. He was only 20 years old.
Yeah, it's a baby.
His footing slipped and he fell into the dark water below. Two convicts actually tried to save him,
Oh.
but they were unfortunately unsuccessful in the rescue. So he ended up dying in the sea, which is awful. His ghost haunts the area around the jetty. In fact, one guest encountered him while staying at the jetty cottage. She woke up one night and saw a apparition in her room. It had straight black hair and a ruffled white shirt. Needless to say, she was scared shitless. Other guests have also reported that the exact same apparition in other various locations, on the jetty looking over the water and on the front stoop looking sullen of this jetty cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't find anywhere where if anybody's ever made contact with him. I don't know if it's just a residual.
Right, residual or
Right.
I don't know. I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
dang.
There's so many more, but I know that we're already over 100 minutes. So
We're 1 hour 16 minutes.
yeah.
Still, it's fascinating. I'm like, I want to go here so bad now.
I do too. This place is amazing. It's awful in a lot of its aspects, but now I think that it's amazing.
I think it is amazing also. I feel so bad for all these people, the prisoners.
I feel bad for the prisoners. I feel bad for the people killed in the mass shooting, which I couldn't necessarily find anything that directly linked to that. But pretty much everywhere you go in Port Arthur is haunted.
Yeah, we can't get away from it, sounds like.
You cannot get away from it. So, but yeah, so that's my ending to Port Arthur.
Dude, I loved it.
I did too. I'm glad in a way that it's done because it was very consuming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it consumed me. Like I had to do this. So I'm glad that it's done now.
I almost hate getting obsessed with things like, especially like cases that we do. Like I end up like Dyatlov Pass. I think I even mentioned it during the episode. Is that I feel like I knew those people, and I felt like when you read people's diaries and things like that, like you're getting to know them personally, and it's like I hate that almost because then like even still I think about it, like I'll just randomly be thinking about it. I feel like
Right.
this is one of those cases where I'm just randomly now going to be thinking about all those prisoners that in my opinion really didn't even commit that bad of crimes to be sentenced to this hell, this life of drudgery and despair and just awfulness, you know. So
Right. I agree. And this place was awful. Like so awful. Like we have covered prisons in our podcast before, and there is nothing as awful as this prison.
well, I mean, right, you're taking people that, like I said, I don't think their crimes really warranted their punishment necessarily. And then you're not only imprisoning them and making them do hard labor, but you're taking away the most basic human function, which is speaking to other
Part of
humans.
them. Right.
Like, that's just terrible. That's awful.
And not only not just speaking, but total sensory deprivation.
Right. It's just terrible.
Right. And if you made a noise, like they would give you corporal punishments. So nobody ever made a noise. And we had talked about it in part 1 where they would literally murder another convict just so they could be killed. That's awful, to have to.
Yeah, the desperation of that is.
It's scary and saddening at the same time.
So sad.
Yeah.
Well, put that on the list. Port Arthur.
Yep.
It's going on the list.
It is going on the list because it is fantastic. Don't worry, I keep all my notes and all of my papers, so we have a list of where we can go.
Oh, I
Because I
don't.
have everything.
I'll just I'll just have to look back at all the episodes because I usually throw all my stuff away.
I don't because I'm a pack rat like Grandpa was, and I
um,
keep everything.
yeah, I find myself saving stuff too that I don't necessarily need, but
I know.
I try not to because Nessie saves quite a bit of things too. So
Well,
if
see,
both of
like,
us combined together, it'd be like a hoarder's house in no time.
you know what is awful is okay, so I will save things that I specifically want to use, and my kids will throw them away.
Yeah, that's annoying. I mean, that's annoying.
Well, okay, so like, you know when you get sausage, little sausage links, and they come in that little styrofoam thing?
Yeah,
Well, I I like to, I don't have one with me, but I was going to show you. I use them for paints. So I'm like, wash this and put it over there. I use it as a palette for paint
yeah,
when I do my masks and my crafts, you know? They always end up throwing them away.
of course. I mean, yeah. It's,
I'm like, I need a new one. Why would you throw it away?
you're like, I was gonna use that.
Yes. I know. And I have all this stuff saved that to use for camping and stuff, and I just throw it away.
Bastards. Just
Yeah.
kidding. I love them.
I know.
I love baby sassies.
They're
Uh,
good.
so yeah,
So anyway, that was
dude,
a good. I liked getting it
it was
done.
so good. I'm like, I liked it so much.
There's so much history here. I mean, I could have probably gone on to a part 3, honestly.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, not even. It's not even like, oh, it was such a long history of like the place itself, but so much stuff was packed into such a short period of time. I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
Like,
Right. And then like I'm like, well, maybe this isn't an actual like an eventful part. And I'm like, continue reading. I'm like, no, it was eventful. I got to put that in,
yeah.
And so it was just it
Well,
was really hard for me to decide what to keep and what to cut because there's so much stuff involved in Port Arthur itself.
yeah. I like it. I like it
Me
a
too.
lot. And if you guys liked it, well, you know what to do. You gotta subscribe and like us and follow us on social media. And make sure you share with everybody and turn on your notifications because if you're not seeing our new content, then you're missing out, I think. So,
I agree.
and if you want to see us go to Port Arthur, which I guarantee you, if I go there, I will record every single second. I don't care how many
Well,
memory cards it takes me.
I'm not recording in the bathroom or anything like
No, I
that.
mean in the actual like proper of the jail
Oh,
vicinity.
right. Don't worry, we're not going
I'm
to record us like having dinner or anything.
what are you eating, Tristan? No, yeah, we're not going to go that far. I mean any pertinent parts. I will. I will take pictures. I will record. Dude, I was thinking that I someday I'd like to start doing some kind of interviews when we get more popular because I don't think people will come on our show right now. But I'd love to do the tour. The Jake guy from I'd love to interview that guy because obviously it
Me
sounds like he's
too.
got a lot of stuff. Plus Australians are cool. They're funny people. So
So when we go to Port Arthur, we will find Jake and we are going to interview him for
yes.
our podcast. That'll just then that just being there, that'll be our whole podcast, and we'll make an audio of our video
Oh my gosh, I would love
there.
that.
Yes, and then that would just be our podcast.
So
Probably it would be in multiple parts because I plan on spending like 4 or 5 days
oh yeah,
here.
we'd have to go a
Like I
week
think it would
at
have
least.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And we
Definitely.
gotta and we gotta get our night investigations in.
Dude, you gotta do it. I feel like oh, daytime, sure, great, but you gotta do it at night. I think you have
Well,
to.
see, like any place that's haunted, it's gonna have activity all day, every
Yeah.
single day. The nighttime, I think a lot of investigators use nighttime because it's quiet. There's no outside interaction.
Well, it's a lot
There,
easier to determine if it's outside, contamination compared to
what's going on where you're at.
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our goal. You guys know our goals, and we want to reach them before I die, please. Otherwise, I'll haunt all of you. and you'll regret it. Just kidding.
Yes.
Just kidding. I'm gonna haunt my family only.
Thanks. Thanks. Right. If you go before me.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I'm gonna be too busy haunting everybody that I know. So don't worry, you're safe. You're safe.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's over. I'm kind of sad because I liked it so much.
Well, you just go do some research on your own. Just read about it. It's
Yeah, I
it's
think I will.
amazing. It's an amazing
I want to
place.
look at pictures and.
There's some books that I got some stuff out of. There's some
Oh,
articles, and
nice. Nice.
yeah, it's a fantastic place.
Well, I'm gonna do that, and I can't wait to go there. So.
Me neither.
Well, I guess we'll go. It's
Yes.
over. Finished another one. I think this is like 33 or 34.
34. This is going to be the 34th. Yep.
That's crazy. 34 cases.
Yes, because part 1 is coming out today, and that'll be our 33rd case. So, yep, this will be 34.
Right. Nice.
Yes.
Maybe we'll try to do a big thing if we get to like 50.
If we get to 50, that'll be in like 2 weeks.
When we get to 50. When we get to 50,
Yes.
maybe we'll do
Yes.
maybe we'll do the big thing for our 50th. The thing that we're gonna do for Halloween.
Okay.
We'll do something because I really want to do it, but I think it'll be probably 3 parts easily.
Probably. Easily, maybe even 4.
Yeah, it's big. So, if you guys want to know what that is, you got to pay attention. You got to watch us and
hit the notification. Yep, and you guys will definitely get it.
And make sure you check out our website and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that jazz. And follow us everywhere and like us and share us. And just right now, I forgot what I say at the end.
I catch you on the flip side.
I've had 3 mimosas, so it's. All right. Well, I guess
I've had 1 cup of coffee.
Well, you're jazzed on the caffeine then. All right. We'll catch you all on the flip side.
Yes, and you all stay creepy.
Peace.